I bought a first-class train ticket during my winter break, but I found someone already sitting in my seat when I boarded. I've always been independent, but this trip home for winter break was going to be different. My parents wanted to pick me up, but with their busy work schedules and the distance to my school, I convinced them to let me return home alone by train. Getting the ticket wasn't easy. Since the holiday was announced late, most tickets were already sold out. Luckily, I secured a first-class seat through the waiting list. On the day of the trip, traffic to the station was chaotic. I barely caught the train. Once I boarded, I stored my luggage and grabbed my phone to reassure my parents. "Mom, Dad, I'll be home this afternoon, don't forget to pick me up." I sent the message, unaware that this peaceful journey was about to turn into a nightmare. I began searching for my seat in the carriage. Because the school break was announced so late, most tickets were sold out when we tried to buy one. Parents wanted to pick me up, but it was too far, so I convinced them not to come. After waiting, I managed to get a first-class ticket from the waiting list. Following the flow of passengers, I carefully checked the seat numbers on my phone. I felt uneasy seeing the woman comfortably seated in my spot. After double-checking everything, I finally spoke up. "Excuse me, ma'am, but I believe this is my seat." My home was far from school, and this train ride would cover the entire journey. A first-class ticket wasn't cheap. It cost nearly half of my monthly expenses. The woman looked at me with disdain and sneered, "There are so many seats, and you say this one's yours? Why don't you call the seat and see if it answers?" I was speechless at her rude comment. It was obvious she had taken my seat on purpose. When I boarded, I noticed her looking around, and I thought she was waiting for someone. I hadn't realized she was checking if the seat's rightful occupant would arrive. Not wanting to cause a scene, I opened my ticket app and showed her my details. "This really is my seat. Look, here's the information." Her expression changed for a moment, but quickly returned to a defiant tone. "What's your problem? So many people here, and you're picking on an old lady? It's just a seat. Are you trying to kill me?" I froze at her sudden outburst. The whole carriage turned to look at us, and I felt my face burn with embarrassment and anger. "This is my seat. You're the one occupying it." "How am I the one causing trouble?" I replied, raising my voice. Inside, I felt wronged and speechless. What bad luck to deal with this on my trip home. I held my phone while the woman huffed impatiently. She suddenly shoved my hand hard. "What are you staring at? Don't wave your phone in my face, I can't read. I'm staying here today. Why can't I?" "Ow!" I grabbed my wrist, my face contorted in pain. Tears welled up in my eyes instantly. It hurt a lot. The shove had slammed my hand against the hard backrest in front of me. My wrist throbbed. I was so irritated I wanted to lash out. "Go ahead and sit. No one's stopping you. But this seat? I paid for it. Sit somewhere else. But where am I supposed to sit if you're in my place?" Some passengers couldn't take it anymore and tried to mediate. "It's just a seat. Why don't you two switch? They're both seats. What's the difference?" Another added, "It's nothing serious, miss. You're being stubborn. Learn to be flexible." I swallowed my frustration. Was it wrong to want to sit in the seat I paid for? After a pause, I sighed. "Fine, you can stay. What's your seat number? We can switch." Massaging my sore wrist, I thought that as long as I could get home, it was fine. I looked around, trying to spot her seat, but all were occupied. Strange. Was her seat not in this carriage? Her face tensed, and she averted her gaze. My excitement about going home had vanished. Now I just wanted to arrive quickly. After a long pause, pressured by the other passengers, she muttered, "Seat 06F in second class." What? I was shocked. Second class? I was completely speechless. Silently, I cursed my bad luck for the 1,000th time. I bought a first-class ticket, and she wanted to swap it for her second-class seat? I stared at the woman, expressionless, unable to believe it. The price difference between first and second class on this train was over $100. I'm not stupid. Why would I give up a more expensive seat for no reason? It's a second-class seat. Take it or leave it. "If you want to sit, go to second class," she grumbled. She scoffed in disdain. "These first-class tickets are too expensive. Who would have thought a guy like you could afford one? Aren't you ashamed to brag about it?" I was so furious I couldn't even respond. The price difference was massive. Why should I move to second class when I paid for first? "Why don't you sit in the seat you bought?" I retorted. If I had bought a second-class ticket, it would have been fine to swap seats, as some passengers suggested, but now the difference was $100. The woman grew even more defiant, clinging to the seat. The wrinkles on her face twisted into a fierce expression. "If you had boarded earlier, this wouldn't have happened. I thought the seat was empty, so I sat here. It's not my fault you were late. And now I'm offering you my seat. Why won't you just accept it?" she continued. "Young people today have no respect for elders. Didn't your parents teach you manners? Were you raised by wolves?" My anger boiled over, and with my eyes burning, I replied through gritted teeth, "You are the one being disrespectful. Give me back my seat or pay the difference. You did this on purpose." Her behavior was simply outrageous. The moment I realized she was shamelessly occupying my seat, the situation started spiraling out of control. The atmosphere in the carriage grew tense, and I could already feel the judgmental stares. Some passengers whispered to each other discreetly, pointing in my direction. That's when I noticed a few had started recording with their phones. The blinking red recording light on their screens made my chest tighten. I could hear faint comments. "Look at that. Arguing with an elderly woman. Over a seat. Unbelievable. He has no respect at all." My breathing quickened. For a moment I thought about backing down. Maybe I should just give up and find another seat. But why? I had paid a lot for that first-class ticket. It wasn't fair. I closed my eyes for a few seconds and took a deep breath. When I looked back at the woman, she had a mocking smile on her face, as if she knew the audience was siding with her. The anger inside me flared, burning intensely. Then, without saying a word, I calmly walked over and sat directly on her lap. The entire carriage fell silent for a second that felt like an eternity before exploding into murmurs and exclamations. "He's lost his mind!" someone exclaimed. "Oh my God, look at this!" another person gasped. The woman started thrashing, pushing my shoulders hard. "Get off me, you lunatic! Are you trying to hurt me? Help!" She tried to scratch and shove me, but I remained still, staring blankly ahead, waiting for her to finally give up. "Someone call the conductor!" she screamed, her face red with fury. The passengers grew even more restless. Some filmed from different angles, while others muttered in disbelief. At this point, my mind was a whirlwind of thoughts, but I didn't care anymore. I was tired of being pushed around. Minutes later, the conductor appeared, visibly confused by the scene. He looked at me, then at the woman, then at the phones recording. "What's going on here?" he asked, trying to stay calm. The woman immediately started shouting, pointing at me with trembling hands. "This boy is assaulting me. He sat on my lap. I want him off this train now!" I took a deep breath, still sitting, and looked the conductor straight in the eyes. "I bought this seat. A first-class ticket. This woman is occupying my seat and refused to move. When I showed her my ticket, she disrespected me, shoved me, and mocked me. Now she's playing the victim because people started recording." The conductor frowned. "Do you have proof of this?" I pulled out my phone and showed him the digital ticket. The seat number was clear as day. The conductor glanced at the woman. "Ma'am, may I see your ticket?" She hesitated for a moment, but reluctantly pulled a crumpled ticket from her bag and handed it over. The conductor examined it and shook his head. "Ma'am, your seat is in second class. This is a first-class seat. I must kindly ask you to move to your assigned seat." Her eyes widened. "I'm not leaving. This boy is insolent. I want him removed." The conductor sighed deeply. He grabbed the radio on his belt and muttered something into it. A few minutes later, 2 railway security officers entered the carriage. They were large men, impeccably dressed in uniform, with serious expressions. "What's the problem here?" one of them asked. The conductor explained the situation. The officers turned to the woman. "Ma'am, we kindly ask you to stand up and go to your assigned seat in second class." She crossed her arms defiantly. "No, I'm not leaving. I want this brat punished." The officers exchanged glances. "Ma'am, if you don't cooperate, we will be forced to remove you from the train." "Are you going to force me? I have rights!" she screamed. The atmosphere grew tense. The passengers recording were now completely silent, waiting for the outcome. Without further warning, one of the officers firmly but carefully grabbed the woman by the arms. She began screaming and kicking in the air. "This is outrageous! I'm going to sue you!" With some effort, they escorted her out of the carriage. Silence lingered for a few moments until a passenger murmured, "So he was right." Another person added, "Look at his ticket. It really was his seat." Slowly, the accusatory stares faded. Some people lowered their phones, visibly ashamed for judging without knowing the full story. I remained seated, still processing what had just happened. My heart was pounding, but I felt a strange sense of relief. For the first time, I didn't let someone walk all over me. The conductor approached and placed a hand on my shoulder. "You did the right thing by staying calm. I'm sorry for the trouble. I hope you have a good rest of your trip." I nodded silently. I gazed out the window, watching the landscape rush by. Now, all I wanted was to get home. Once I finally settled into my seat, my entire body felt tense, as if I had just come out of a fight. The train continued its journey, but the silence in the carriage was almost deafening. People still cast sideways glances at me, some shaking their heads in disapproval, while others whispered, probably judging me. I could clearly tell that many still saw me as the villain, the disrespectful young man who dared confront an elderly woman. But honestly, I didn't care anymore. I knew the truth. I knew I was right and had defended what was rightfully mine. I didn't do anything but demand respect for what I paid for. I wasn't aggressive. I simply refused to be taken advantage of. As the train moved forward and the scenery passed by, I began reflecting on everything. I was tired, but at the same time, I felt an odd sense of relief. The woman was removed from the train by her own choice, not mine. If she had simply gone back to her seat, none of this would have happened. Hours later, back home, I told my parents everything. I explained every detail, from the moment I saw the woman in my seat to when the security guards removed her. My parents were shocked. My mother looked visibly worried, and my father was outraged. "Son, are you sure you didn't do anything wrong?" my father asked seriously. "Absolutely. I just wanted what was mine. And even so, everyone turned against me." Then, when I picked up my phone, I noticed a notification from a social media platform. Someone had tagged me in a video. When I opened it, my stomach dropped. It was a recording of the entire incident. The video started with the woman screaming and me sitting on her lap. It was already going viral, with thousands of likes, comments, and shares. I started reading the comments, expecting the worst. But to my surprise, most people were on my side. I would have done the same. Paid for the seat, it's his right. That woman was super abusive. She deserved to be removed. People judge without knowing. He tried to talk first. Of course, there were some who criticized me, saying my actions were extreme, but they were in the minority. Most people understood what had happened. That brought me some comfort. I showed the video to my parents, and they became even more outraged, especially seeing how the recordings only showed part of what happened, distorting the story. This is an invasion of privacy. No one has the right to record and post you without your permission, my mother exclaimed. My father grew thoughtful. We need to talk to our lawyer. Not only should that woman be held accountable, but also the people who posted these videos. This is defamation. We met with a lawyer specialized in image rights and defamation. He was straightforward. You have a solid case. Recording and posting the video without consent, especially with public exposure, causes moral damage. Not to mention the humiliation suffered on the train. We filed a lawsuit against those who posted the video and against the woman for moral damages. The situation kept gaining traction online, and the more it spread, the more people began to understand what really happened. The lawsuit took time, but justice was served. The judge recognized the unlawful exposure of my image and the humiliation I endured. Those responsible for the videos were ordered to pay compensation for moral damages, and the woman was also fined for the distress and harm she caused. The court ruling was clear. No one has the right to expose another person without consent, and the woman's behavior was abusive and disrespectful. With the compensation money, my parents decided we'd use part of it for a family trip, something we hadn't done in years. We needed time to put all this behind us. Even with some criticism from people on the train, I didn't care. Most people understood my side, and the justice system confirmed I was right. The weight I carried in that carriage finally lifted off my shoulders. This experience taught me that standing your ground isn't always seen favorably by others. Often fighting for your rights is mistaken for rebellion, when it's really about dignity. Today, I live in peace. I still receive supportive messages from strangers who saw the video and understood the situation. And if there's one thing I've learned, it's that no one should accept being disrespected, no matter who the other person is. That woman tried to publicly shame me, but in the end, she was the one who had to face the consequences. And me, I simply fought for what was mine.